Today is Taanis Yud Daled, so everyone give a hand because it's Yad Day today. And we are picking up on the bottom of Yud Gimel. I'm Rabbi Kovacs, filling in for Rabbi Silber. Our sponsors today, we have a Talmud Torah sponsorship by Samuel and Malka Esterson in memory of their parents, in commemoration of their yahrzeits of Yitzchak, Laib, ben Aharon, HaKohen, Sarah Rachel, bas Baruch, Avraham, Hinda, bas Henech, Efraim, in honor of the Rav, and only does for the kehilla and the community. A week of learning sponsor by Michoel and Sarah Lipman and family in honor of Phillip, Sanfield's Siyum HaShas. May Phillip and his wife Judy merit to make many more Siyumim and continue to inspire us with all their Torah and Maasim Tovim. Mazal Tov, and by Bill Eskin in honor of Chaim Rothschild. So he told me the turkeys were going to sponsor today, but they got geshekted. So Rabbi say, if you have leftover turkey, it's definitely mutter to eat it on Shabbos, but we say that you should always, even if you have a delicious food already, it's always good to make something else in honor of Shabbos. So if you didn't have any fish yesterday for some reason, go ahead and make some fish for Shabbos also to enjoy with your turkey, just not at the same time. Okay, Rabosai, we are at the bottom of Yud Gimel, and the topic was, thank you for the mic, I feel like it's like, wow, like Kol Ram, like amazing. It's amazing. Ram Kol Ram. And we got you. And we were discussing about Anenu. When we say the tefillah, the extra bracha of Anenu on a fast day, that the Shaliach Tzibor, he says Anenu as a separate bracha when he's davening out loud between Goel and Rofe. He says the bracha of Anenu, and it has its own end. It's its own separate bracha. But a Yachid, he says it in the middle of Shemaya Tefillah on a fast day. So they were discussing, the discussion in the Gemara yesterday was a Yachid who's has its own fast. It's a Taanis Yachid. It's his own personal fast. He had a bad dream. He needs to fast for something. He needs a kapara. Would he say Anenu as a separate bracha? Can he make an extra bracha on the Shemona Esrei, or does he have to put it in Shemaya Tefillah? So then we said there's no difference. I'm saying outside what we said yesterday. He said there's no difference between the tefillah of a tzibur and the tefillah of a yachid on a fast day, except there's one's 18 brachas, one's 19 brachas. So it implies that the tefillah of the tzibur adds the anenu as a separate bracha, whereas the yachid has it in Shemaya Tefillah. Now when they say 18 and 19 for their Shemona Esrei, they mean Shemona Esrei is 18. Now we know today we have 19, because we added laminim v'lamashlim in Yavne. So that bracha is very new. It's only about 1900 years old. It's quite new. But in the old times, it was only Davka 18 brachas default and 19 bracha when you added a nenu. And then yesterday we brought up this Inyan of 24. Now on a fast day, we sometimes have 24 brachot on a public fast day. They would add in 6 extra brachot. And we're going to see that in the next parak, what those were about, and the makor for being able to add. We actually mentioned it in the Gemara in brachos. We were talking about tefillah in the 4th parak, but we're going to describe that in the next parak here in Taanis. So the discussion there was, well, there are other differences between Yachid and Tzibor, not just the 19, 18, because there's this possibility of 24 also. So we're actually going to pick up on the first wide line on the bottom of Yud Gimel. I know we went a couple lines further yesterday, but that way we have a good launching platform to begin with. So they say velo, so right in the middle of the first wide line, Yud Gimel Amud Beis. Ha ein bein ketone, so it says there's no difference. When we see the words ein bein, there's no other difference. That's a wording in the Mishnah that implies that we've included everything in the category. So then the Gemara gets to use those words ein bein to examine, well, did the teacher of the Mishnah really put everything in the category into this Mishnah, or is there something left out? And if something left out, what's the reason for that? So it's those words ein bein give the rabbis of the Gemara the opportunity to examine what's in the category and what isn't. What are the real differences? Ein bein gimel rishonot the gimel emtzayot. There's no difference between the first 3 fasts and the second 3 fasts. Elisha be'elu mutar and b'siyas malacha, like we said in the Mishnah yesterday. It was really, we read the Mishnah 2 days ago. Elisor and b'siyas malacha. So no difference between the first 3 and the next 3, except for doing malacha. Halachav daled, but the 24 brachot in the tefillah, zeh v'zeh shavin, they are equal. Now remember, this 3 rishonot and the 3 achronot, really is the middle ones here. That's talking about, first there were 3 fasts. Remember, the first 3 fasts were done by yechidim, by the leaders, the rabbis, and also people who wanted to step up to the plate and be, responsible for the community. That was the first 3. Then the next 3 were public fasts. That's when they closed the bathhouse, they closed the restaurants, and everybody was fasting together. And then at the end, if that didn't work, there were 7 more. But here it's talking about comparing the first 3 to the middle 3. So and they say, so maybe they were the same for the 24 blessings. Maybe on the public tefillah, the Shliach Tzibur said all 24 blessings, like we're going to learn about in the next parak. ton of a shire, so the Mishnah taught differences and it also left out ma shire to high shire. So what did it leave out? That it left out this. This is also an opportunity. If there's a list of items in a Mishnah, then the Gemara usually will analyze, well, what's left off the list? If there's one item left off the list, there must be a reason why. The teachers of the Mishnah were not haphazard. They were dafka. They put things on lists because they belonged in the lists. If one thing's left off, we need to know why. If 2 or 3 things are left off, maybe they didn't include everything on the list. And also, Ha'ain Bain Katani uses those magic words, Ain Bain, there's no other, which implies there's no other differences. The teacher of the Mishnah talking about the malacha was talking about isurim on a public fast day. It was also to do malacha on a public fast day. It's not talking about the tefillah. It's not talking about the differences in tefillah between the first 3 public fasts and the next 3 public fasts. We'll get into that actually tomorrow when we start the next parak. Ibai Sema, and you could say Be'emtseita, or in the middle 3 fast days, Nami lo matzlei chavtala. They didn't daven the 24 blessings. They didn't have the extra 6 blessings in their public tefillah until the last 7. Remember, it was 3, 3, and 7 for Yud Gimel. Why do they use 13 fast days? 13 midos arachamim. Beautiful. So they went up to 13 fast days. We'll see on today's daf. There might be times when they go more than 13. V'lo, and there's no more differences. The Gemara continues, Tanya, but there's a baraisa. Ein bein gimel shniyos. The Sheva Achronos, there's no difference between the middle 3, which is, they're saying here, the second 3 fast days, the Sheva Achronos, to the last 7 fast days, Ela Sheba Elu Matriyin. But on these last 7 were Matriya. The Gemara today will explain what's Matriya. Usually Triya sounds like Trua. Sounds like we're going to blow a shofar. We're going to see that in today's daf. And we lock the stores, so people are not looking at the food. Which implies for other items they are the same. So for the 24 blessings in the Shmona Esrei, which is now not a Shmona Esrei anymore, they are the same. And if you're going to tell me how Chanami, yes, they are the same. Ton of Ishayar here too. The teacher of the Mishnah left off some differences. Ha'ain Bain Katani, it teaches Ain Bain. There's no, which implies no other differences. But Tispra, is it true there's no other differences? Ein Bain Dafka, that the words Ein Bain in the Mishnah means Mamash, there's no other differences. Turning over to the top of Yud Daled, so give yourself a hand. Ha the Hashire Teva, it's left off the ark. Now the Teva, the last 7 fast days, they would take the ark out of the Beit Knesset. And we're dealing with a little city, a little village where they have one big Beit Knesset for everybody. Which, I mean, it sounds amazing. We're both saying there could be one synagogue for an entire city. Because a Jew always has to have a shul he goes to, a shul he doesn't go to, a shul he goes to when the Kiddush is good. A Jew needs a lot of shuls. I mean, that's sort of like Lamaisa how it works. I mean, it's nice. It's nice that way. But they would take the Teva, with the Sefer Torah in it, out to the public square because they were all davening in the public square. They would all get together, and maybe the pshat is they had more than one synagogue in the town. They had more than one shul, but they would all go together into a space in public where they could fit everybody in to have mamish tefillah b'tzibur for the whole city. And they would take an Aharon with a Sefer Torah out there on these last 7 fast days. Now it's not raining, so Baruch Hashem, you can take the Teva out. So Nebuch, they got to daven for the rain. They would take that out. So they left that out of the Mishnah. They didn't say on the last 7 you take out the Teva to the public square to daven there together. Imishim Teva lav shirahu. So if we're talking about moving the ark into the public from the shul, that's not left off the list. Mili the tzina katani, because it's teaching you things that apply b'tzina. Now tzina means like privately, but here it means like personally. So a person can't do malacha, can't do certain things. Mili de parhesia, public things, like the whole tzibur moves the ark into the public square to daven there lokatani. It's not dealing with those. So there's a good reason why the teva was left off the list. There isn't a good reason why the difference in tefillah, the number of brachot, is left off the list. Amar Avashi, Masnisin Nami Daika, our Mishnah, you can also be meduyak, you can learn from the wording of our Mishnah what the halacha is. The Katane, it teaches, Ma elu yeterut al rishonot, that these are yetzer, they're additional, they add on to the rishonot, to the first fast days. Ela shebe'elu matrin v'noelin et chanuyot. On these last 7 fast days, we're going to see the next Mishnah tomorrow. They are matriya. We assume there's some sort of trua or some sort of wailing going on, but and they lock up the stores. But for the other matters like tefillah, they are equal. If you're going to tell me here too, it's Tana Vishayar that the teacher of the Mishnah listed differences between the middle 3 fast days, the last 7 fast days, but left off some differences like the tefillah. Ha ma elu katane. It says ma elu katana. These words ma elu also imply it's dafka these things and not more. Ma elu just means what about these? Like just like these, and it has on the list, so it implies, the wording of the Mishnah implies it's dafka, these things, and not other things. So we didn't leave something off. But Tispra, are you sure? Ma elu dafka, that the words ma elu dafka means these things. What about these? Who v'hashayir la teva, but it left off the teva. So again, the Gemara says imishum teva. If you're talking about taking out the ark into the public square, lav shirahu, that doesn't count as something left of the list because there's a good reason to leave that off the list. Mishum dekah chashiv la beidach pirka, because he's going to teach that in the same parak. The teacher of the Mishnah is going to teach you about the teva. First, he teaches you about the things that apply bitsina, that apply personally to an individual, and then it teaches you the things the community is doing together on these public fast days. Hashati lahachi. So now that we've reached this conclusion. So not mentioning the 24 blessings on those last 7 public fast days, it's also not something left out. Even though it's not listed in the Mishnah, there's a good reason for that. Because in the same parak, the Mishnah is going to teach us about the difference in tefillah, that on those last 7 public fast days, the Chazan says 24 blessings in the Shmona Esrei. So you get 33% more blessings free with your Shmona Esrei on those last public fast days. We're going to see on Abu Beis, we don't do this anymore, so don't get worried. Keep davening for the rain and the parnasa, but don't get worried about learning a 24 bracha Shmona Esrei. My Havelah. So what did they decide about this issue? About the issue of Anenu, Amar of Shmuel bar Sisratai, Chen Amar Rabbi Chia bar Ashi Amar Rav Bein Goel Rofe. So we put this Anenu on a public fast day between Goel and Rofe. Rav Ashi Amar Mishmei the Rabbi Yanai Berei the Rabbi Yishmael b'Shomei Tefillah Hilchos of Shomei Tefillah. So a yachid, an individual davening on a fast day, puts his Anenu inside his Shomei Tefillah. And it doesn't get its own chaytem, it doesn't get its own seal of Baruch Atah Hashem at the end. But the Shliach Tzibor, davening for the public, does put the Anenu between Goel and Rofe. But what if he forgets? What if the Shliach Tzibor, davening from the Amud, forgets the Anenu there? What does he do? Beautiful. He puts in Shemei Tefillah. So Shemei Tefillah is like the backup. So the shaila becomes, what if you, not you guys, what if Ploni comes to shul late, and the Chazan's about to start the repetition, the Chazar Sashatz, the repetition of the Shemona Esrei, and he wants to daven along with him. So where should he put his Anenu? So the problem is he can't daven word for word with the Shliach Tzibor, the guy who showed up late, and it's about to be Shemona Esrei time out loud. Because the Shliach Tzibor is going to say Anenu between Goel and Rofe. But he can't, because he's a yachid. So he can't follow along word for word. He's got to sort of skip ahead and do the Anenu inside the Shemei Tefillah. So that's for a Ploni who shows up late, because we don't, Baruch Hashem. What about the Shliach Tzibor himself? Shliach Tzibor gets to daven twice. So it's a bit of a discussion about what the Shliach Tzibor does the first time, because the first time he does it silently. So if he's davening silently, maybe he's like a yachid, and he should say his Anenu and Shomei Tefillah like a yachid. But since he's about to daven out loud as the Shliach Tzibor, the first time silent Amidah is kind of like a warm up. It's like it's like the pitcher is warming up on the mound. He's throwing some pitches, he's getting the shoulder loose. So it's sort of a warm. He should do it exactly like he's going to do for the Tzibor. He should do the Anenu as a separate bracha like the Tzibor. So there are rabbis on both sides of the issue. It seems like the Shliach Tzibor should say Anenu where the Shliach Tzibor says Anenu as a separate bracha, even in his warm-up, because that's what he's going to do out loud. It's interesting that there's the same machlokas applies if you daven a certain nusach, and then they ask you to daven at a shul with a different nusach. So you're the Shliach Tzibor, so obviously if you're in an Ashkenazi shul, you're going to say Ashkenazi out loud. If you're in a Sfard shul, you'll say the Sfard out loud. But what do you do to yourself? So Rav Moshe says you should do like they're going to do out loud. But a lot of other poskim say, no, you should do like you're going to do, like you always do. So if you normally daven a Chabad Nusach, you daven to yourself silently Chabad Nusach, and then out loud you daven Ashkenazi like everyone else from the siddur that everyone else uses. But it is a machlokes, so it's something that does come up if you're shul hopping, like we mentioned above. So it's something to think about if you're called on to daven, how you look at your warm up davening. Am I just warming up, or is this my own personal davening, and the out loud davening is going to be a whole other inyan? So it's ask your up. But Rav Moshe says, Rav Moshe Feinstein said, they asked him, and he said that you should daven like you're going to daven out loud. It should be identical, but there's a lot of other poskim say not like this, or Avadia says not like this. So there's what to rely on if you're comfortable davening your own tefillah, and then you're going to follow along very closely in the siddur for the out loud tefillah of a different nusach. So yeah, mistakes happen. So Baruch Hashem, the nusachim are not so different. If you go to different shuls, they ask you to daven, you'll see that it's 99% the same. Baruch Hashem, Jews are Jews everywhere. There's a few little differences. The pronunciation's a little different, but Baruch Hashem, Jews are Jews everywhere. Yeah, Baruch Hashem for Jews. Good, so at the two dots. Tanechad, ubarot umenikot. So this is a very important lemaisa shaila. What about pregnant and nursing women on a fast day? So there's one statement, one teaching, mitanot b'rishonot, they fast on the first ones, ein minanot be'achronot, and they don't fast on the last ones. Tanya idach, there's another teaching, another baraisa, mitanot be'achronot, they fast on the last ones, ein mitanot b'rishonot. It's the opposite, they don't fast on the first ones. Tanya idach, there's another baraisa, Rabbosai, hold on to your hats, ein mitanot lo b'rishonot lo be'achronot. The pregnant and the nursing women don't fast the first ones or the last ones. So these are all mutually exclusive. Amar Ravashi has a teretz. Nakud emtzaita biadoch. We're really talking about the middle ones. Hold the middle ones in your hand. Dimitartzin kuhu. That's a teretz for everything. So what he means was, remember there are 3 sets of fasts. There's a bahab, and a behab. So there's 3 fast days, which remember were the yechidim, the people who are the leaders, the rabbis, people who want to step up and be responsible. And they said, remember, not everyone should step up and fast when they don't have to, because if it's going to interfere with your daily living, your ability to learn Torah, your ability to function, you shouldn't be machmir and try to fast when only the yechidim are fasting. That's the first set of bahab. The second bahab is everyone, public fast day. That's when they said it's asr malacha, they're going to lock the stores. And the last 7, we're going to see they move the teva into the public square, they have matria, it's a lot more intense, the last 7. So the first 3, which were just the yechidim, and the last 7, which were very intense, we say that the pregnant nursing women should not try to do those. But the middle 3, they should. So the first baraisa, which said they don't do the first, they do the last. So that's talking about comparing the first set of 3 to the second set, the middle set. And then it said they do the last, not the first. That's comparing the second to the first. And then we say not the first, not the last. So they don't do the first bahab or the bahab at the end, but they do the bahab in the middle. Now, lemaisa, if a woman is pregnant or fasting, we are very machmir on Tisha B'Av, and we are very machmir on Yom Kippur. But other than that, if you ask a shaila to a rav, and a woman who's pregnant or nursing feels that she needs the nourishment, there are a lot of kulas, a lot of rabbanim who are mekel for a woman who's pregnant or fasting, pregnant or nursing. And nursing, we're going to see when we get to nashim, when we get to kesivas, and we get to kiddushin, nursing can be up to 24 months after the baby's born. So really, the baby could be, not so much nursing anymore. He's already 2 years old, L'man Hashem, but she's still in that category of sort of recovering from birth, rebuilding her nutrient stores, things like this. So Chazal account for that fact of biology. They say up to 24 months she could technically be in the category of nursing. So if a woman has a hard time fasting, it is a shaila. If it's not Tisha B'Av, it's not Yom Kippur, it's another one of the fast days, including a public fast day for rain, which we don't do anymore. But in any of the other fasts, it's a shaila to ask because there is a lot of room for kulas for women who are pregnant or nursing. So it's interesting, the lashon they use Aharonot and Rishonot. So, and it's lav davka. So Aharonot here could mean the middle ones, and Rishonot could mean the ones before the last ones, which is also the middle ones. So there's a famous story. There was one of these maskilim went to see the Gra, and he says, "Hey Gra," I don't know if he said "Hey Gra," but he said something. He was being a maskil, and he said, there's a pasuk in Chagai in the second parak that says the kavod of the bias Aharon is the greatest. And it was talking about the second temple, because Haggai was in the days of the second temple. So you see from here, are we good? Yeah. Uh-oh. We're fixing the microphone here. We're going to switch out the microphone maybe. It's good? Okay, we're going to keep going. So the pasuk in Haggai is mashma that the second temple was the Aharon. It calls the second temple the Aharon. Now, Aharon means last. But we see from here, it doesn't necessarily mean last. The Gra answered. The Gra said, that's beautiful. You say that the second temple was the last, but it's not true because Aharon also means the middle one. And he proves it. There's a pasuk, and the pasuk we just saw in Vayishlach. In Vayishlach, what does it say? It says that he sent Leah and her sons Rishonim, and then the Shvachot, and their children Aharonim, and then Rachel and Yosef Aharonim. So it says Rishon, Aharon. So Aharon doesn't mean last, it means next. So the word aher in Ivrit, it means another. So like saying Aharon is like, it could mean last, but it also mean next. Say Rishon, Aharon. That's why I say the phrase Aharon Haviv. We save the best. Say we save the best for last. Like when you're giving a lot of Mazal Tovs, there's a lot of Simchas. So we say Aharon, Chaviv. We're saving the best for last. But it doesn't mean the middle one was not also an Aharon. So the Gra came back to the Maskil. He says there's a proof from the pasuk that the Aharon could mean not just last, but it could mean next. So it does that in the pasuk by Vayishlach. It does that in some other places in the Tanakh, and it does that here in the Mishnah, where the Brisa and the Mishnah say Aharon is not necessarily the last. It could also mean next. It could also mean the middle. So if any maskilim come up to you with a pasuk from Haggai, and they say, oh, the second temple was the last temple, you silly Jews, you're praying for a third temple, it's not true. You say, listen, it's a Mishnah right here, the Gra already answered your question from Vayishlach, and you throw the maskil out. So Baruch Hashem, that's the Gra on the word Aharon, explaining Aharon can mean next, not just last. So good. Ma elu yeterot ala rishonot. The Mishnah said these last are yeter. They have something additional on the first set of public fasts. On these we are matria, sounds like lashon trua, and we lock up the stores. Good, right? The two dots we're saying. But my matriin, what do I mean? We're matria. What does that even mean? Rav Yehuda Amar b'shofarot. We do trua on a shofar on these public fast days. Rav Yehuda Merei Rav Shmuel Bar Shelos Mishmei Rav Amar be'anenu. During anenu, we're matria. We wail and we moan and we raise our voice. Now, this is not the same anenu. The anenu we were talking about just now is the anenu in Shmona Esrei. The Rashi here points out this is a different anenu. So he says, Rabbi Yehuda Amar Matrin anenu bekol ram hayutzakim anenu avinu anenu anenu elokei Avraham anenu anenu elhei Yitzchak anenu elokei Yaakov anenu. This is part of slichos. Akol kavisha omrim besof slichot. He says this is at the end of their slichot. Rashi says this was their nusach. So this anenu is they do it out loud. Interesting. The Sfardim. When we get to this paragraph, Anenu Avinu Anenu, they sing it. And they have one guy sing it, and then everyone else follows along. It's really Bekol Ram. It's like a leading and response. It's like a call and response. This Anenu, Hashem, Anenu Avinu Anenu is done that way by the Sfardim. So this is the Anenu by Slichos. So during the Slichos, they're supposed to be out loud and a wailing and a community involvement. So if the Slichos on a fast day is just, it's silent and it's mumbling, there's something missing. It's not really the same as they had back then. As the Gemara is saying, their anenu, their slichot was really intense. The slichot has a lot of power to it, and sometimes it's okay, we got to say all these things after Shmona Esrei, it's taking a long time. Slichot has a very large power, especially on a fast day. We all come together. There's more slichot. It's something to look into and to appreciate that it has the slichot tefillah is often overlooked, but it is very vital and very important, particularly on a fast day. So they would say this anenu. So it's a machlokes was the matria with the shofar, or during the anenu, during the slichot. We would have thought the one who says anenu is wailing during slichot, not necessarily with the shofar. Madamar shofarot lo amar banenu. When the one who says you need to blow the shofar during tefillah, he would say you don't need to wail during anenu, during slichot. But Tanya, the Brisa says ein pochatin misheva tanyot. We don't have less than 7 tanyot al tzibor. Shebahen yudches hatraut, that they each have 18 hatraut. Similar to Devar Yericho, like Yericho. Yericho shofar chava, and by Yericho, by Jericho, they blew the shofar and the walls came down. So why do we have 18 shofar blasts during these 7 public fasts, the last 7 public fasts, the most intense ones? Because they added 6 brachot. Remember, Rabbi said they had a 24 bracha Shmona Esrei during these last 7 fasts, and during each of those additional 6 brachot, they blow shofar 3 times. I hope it wasn't when the Chazan was actually saying the bracha. It was maybe before and after. I'm not sure exactly how it worked. I wasn't there. But they would have shofar blasts during the tefillah, b'tzibur, during these 6 extra brachot of Shmona Esrei on these 7 public fast days. So you have to blow the shofar. Tiyufta l'man da'amar anenu. So it's a tiyufta for the one who says it's anenu avinu anenu during slichot. Ele b'shofar t'kulam lo pligi. No, a shofar, they agree. We need the shofar. The shofar is essential. Tekori lahatra. A shofar is definitely called trua. Yom trua yeh lachem. We said by Rosh Hashanah, we blow the shofar, definitely. Keep li be'anenu. But they disagree about slichot. Mar savar kari lahatra. One says, raising your voice, wailing and crying during slichot, that's called hatra. That's also a trua. Trua is like a wailing voice. That's what it means. Remember, where did we learn the trua from? From which person in history? The mother of Sisera. The mother of Sisera was wailing when, as Rabbi Silver said, she finally realized reality. She realized her son, the the vicious anti-Semite was not coming home victorious from battle. He had been killed by the Jews in battle. And so she finally broke down those barriers and started wailing. And the machlokas there is, was she sobbing like, oi, 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 or was she wailing like, oi? So we do both. We do both with our shofar. We do both for our trua. We do the shvarim and the trua. Marsav, our lo kari lo hatra. When the other one says that praying with your voice is not called trua, it's not called trua. Lamanda mar be'anenu, for the opinion that says with anenu is our hatra, is our trua. Kol sheken b'shofar. Kol sheken a shofar is called a trua also. Lamanda bar shofar the anenu lo. One who says that wailing is accomplished with a shofar, but during tefillah, during anenu avinu anenu, that's not necessarily called a wailing, so that's not required. Tanya, but there's a brisa. Shar kol minei puranot, but other disasters, hamidragshot, that are coming against the Jewish people, gon chikuch, like scratching. So the scratching here refers to scratching itchy boils or itchy scabs because of some sort of lo aleinu, some sort of disease or something, blisters caused. Chagav is famously the locusts, like they had in Mitzrayim. Though in Mitzrayim, famously in Mitzrayim, they had a bunch of species of locusts. We're never going to have that again, even if we have Chagav. Zavuv, flies. Tzira is wasps. The wasps were famously used by Hashem as a weapon when Am Yisrael invaded Eretz Yisrael. Hashem sent the tzira to shoot poison at their enemies. So that was the first use of chemical warfare in recorded history. V'yatoshim, and gnats that would, Rashi says, crawl into someone's nostrils, lo aleinu. Shiluach nachashim, or if there's a bunch of snakes coming, akravim, scorpions. So all of these disasters, these are also worth fasting over. If there's a plague of locusts or scorpions showing up, okay, you're going to start, it's Min HaShamayim. People are going to start fasting. Lo hayu matrim, but they wouldn't do trua. So they're going to be fasting, they're not doing matrim. Elatzokim, but they would shout, they would yell. So it's even here, they weren't matria, which implies with a shofar, but they would shout and yell and cry. But it's tzaka b'pei, and since tzaka literally means yelling, screaming, is b'pei hatra b'shofarot. The hatra, the trua that we're talking about in the Mishnah must be with shofar. So the trua on these public fast days was with a shofar and not with yelling out. Tanahi, it's a machlokes tanaim about the meaning of trua here. It could possibly mean anenu avinu anenu. It could possibly mean the slichos. The Tanya, Bryce says, all elu matrin, on these disasters and these problems, we are matria b'Shabbat, even on Shabbos. Al Ir Shiguva Gaius, a city that's surrounded by, Gaius could mean an army, it could mean bandits, a force. There's an enemy force surrounding a city. O Nahar, a river here Rashi says that's flooding. It's going to overflow its banks, and we've got to evacuate people. Al Sfina Hamitref Bigam, a Sfina that's it's treifa. It's got a hole in it and it's starting to sink, and we got to get the people off. We got to save the people. On these we could be matria. Biyosi Omer le'ezra. We do this matria to get help. So tria here, if it's on Shabbos, it's not with a shofar. We're not going to pull out our shofar and blow a shofar on Shabbos, but we are going to be shouting and yelling. And Rabbi Yossi adds, this is to get help. Avolo letzaka, but to scream, no. This is a very interesting thing. And we say, b'mai, what are we using here? Ilema b'shofar. If we're using a shofar b'shabbat mishari, we're not using a shofar on Shabbos. Allah be'anenu. We're using anenu. Well, really, we're yelling for help. Kari lo hasra, shmamina. So we see shmamina. We learn from here that anenu, avinu, anenu could be called trua. Could be called hatra'ah. Hatra'ah with an ayin. Hasra with an aleph is warning people they're about to do a crime. Hasra'ah mit an ayin means trua, means calling out. It's very interesting here. You can call out on Shabbat to get help, le'ezra, but not le'tzaka. You're not crying out just to complain and say, oi, woe is me, oi vey, the boat is sinking, the river is flooding, but you can call for help. So l'maisa, if you're trying to get help, if there's a situation of pikuach nefesh on Shabbos, you call for help. If you need the telephone, you need the telephone. If you need to go get the neighbors, you need to get the community together. You get people together. If there's like a search and rescue kind of thing going on, you get the people together. If it's because, there's something happening on the other side of the world, and let's all daven or say Tehillim, that's a beautiful thing, but you don't go around on Shabbat screaming at everybody, come to shul and say Tehillim now, because there's something happening that's not a pikuach nefesh, it's not actually in our community. It's always good to daven, it's always good to say Tehillim, but we're machalek. There's Ezra and there's tza'aka. If we're just calling out and screaming out in tefillah, yes, that's always good, but on Shabbat we don't go around screaming and yelling, we need help, when it's not lamaisa, we actually need the help. So it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. Here it's the boy who cried anenu. But we see when you need the help, you call out and you get the help. Even on Shabbat, you ask your friends, you ask your neighbors, you ask the community to come together to solve the situation. So it's something to keep in mind. Our tefillah is not just screaming at the clouds here. We're asking specifically for help. On Shabbat, we ask our friends, we ask our neighbors, the community, and from Hashem, we ask Lamaisa, we need help. We need help. Sometimes the best tefillah is HELP, help. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes hard to daven. We don't know what to ask for, so we say help. Good. 2 dots at the very bottom. B'shane de Rebbe Yehuda Nesiya, in his years, hava tzara. There was a tsar. Now, tsar here doesn't necessarily mean a lack of rain. It means there was a problem. Gozar Tlosisrei Tanyot. He was gozer 13 fasts. V'lo ianu. They weren't answered after 13 fasts. Remember, this was the first 3, the Yechidim. The middle 3, public fasts. The last 7, which were more intense, with the trua and the locked stores and the teva in the city square, things like this. Savar the migzar tfei. He says, well, let's add another bahab. Let's have more fasts. Amar le Rabbi Ami, Hari Amru ein matrichin et tzibor yoter midai. But the Mishnah said after 13 we don't add on. Amar Rabbi Abba berei de Rabbi Chia bar Abba Rabbi Ami de Ava the Garmi Hudava. He says he was saying this not because it was correct necessarily, but for himself. Rashi here says, "Lefi shehu lo hayarot tzlitanot." He already had 13 fasts. He didn't want to do another bahab. He was fed up with fasting. So he was saying it for himself. So that sounds a little strange. So maybe it's legarme means it was his own reasoning. It wasn't a Masorah he had, but he was extrapolating because the Mishnah said we don't go over 13 fasts for a lack of rain. So here, even though it wasn't a lack of rain issue, it was another problem. It was the locusts or the scorpions problem, something like this, or a gzeira of malchus, something lo aleinu. So he was extrapolating from the fasts for rain, which we don't go over 13, to fasts for other issues. Elohachi Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan Lo Shano El Legishamim. This 13 fast limit is only by rain of all the Sharmine Puranot for the scorpions or for other issues. Mit'anin v'holchin ad shi'anu min Shemayim. We keep on fasting bahab until we are answered from Shemayim. If it's in one of these insects or boils or one of these other crazy things, lo aleinu, it's not a rain issue. We keep going. Tanya Mihachi, there's also brisa like this. Kisha Amru Shalosh, we said 3. Kisha Amru Sheva, we said 7. Remember, it was 3, 3, and then 7. Lo Amru Elegishapim. Those limits are only by rain. By a lack of rain, we'd fast bahab, 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 bahab. Aval Sharmine Puraniot. But for other disasters, mit'anot v'hochin, we go on fasting and going. We keep fasting bahabs, achianu, until we get an answer. Sometimes the answer is no, but God willing, you get an answer. Laib tiyufta de Rabbi Ami. So let's say this is tiyufta Rabbi Ami. Amar lach Rabbi Ami tanahi. It's a malokas tanaim. The Tanya, there's a brisa. Ein gozrin yoser misholosh esrei taniot al tzibur. We don't go over 13 fasts on the public fasts. Levisha ein matrichin et tzibur yoter midai. We don't do tircha de tzibura, that famous phrase meaning extra effort, extra inconvenience. Thank you. Say we don't inconvenience the public more than necessary. Divrei Rebbe. This is what Rebbe says. Rebbe says we never go over 13. Rebbe Shimon Gamliel Omer lo min Hashem hu zeh. It's not a good comparison. Avnei sheyatzu zmana shoravia. It's not because 13 is the limit. It's because if you've done bahab at the beginning of the rainy season's over. It's the end of Mar Cheshvan already. If you've done all of these taniyot, you're already into the next month already, and the rainy season is over. Which means for other things that are not rain related, you could keep on going. You could add more bahab. You could keep on fasting because it's not a rainy season issue. Remember, the Mishnah had said that if they're at the very end of the Mishnah, it said Yatza Nisan V'Yarei Geshamim. If they did all these fasts and it's already springtime already, it's not rainy season. Siman Klala. Now, if they fasted all these fasts and rain never came, and now the rain's coming in Nisan in the spring, it's a Klala Shadamar Halog Tzir Hitim Hayom. Isn't it the wheat harvest today? It's interesting that pasuk is by Shmuel Navi. Says to the Am Yisrael got together to vote for a king. They voted for the king. For Shaul was voted in. And they got together to elect the king. And he said, it's not appropriate to elect a king. He's going to take taxes. He's going to take 10% taxes, Rabosai. The federal government back then was taking 10% taxes. He's going to have a draft for the army. He's going to take your best cattle and your best horses. He's going to have eminent domain and make roads wherever he wants. And to prove that this is a not appropriate thing to ask for a king, it's going to rain today. and then boom, Hashem makes it rain because Shmuel the Navi said it's not appropriate to ask for rain right now. Now rain is a siman bracha. It would be good to have a Jewish king, but it wasn't the time yet. It wasn't time for David HaMelech yet. Shaul was, in a sense, sort of a stopgap measure because they needed a king to lead them in war, but the world wasn't ready for David HaMelech and the Malchus based David. So Shaul was sort of the temporary. We see in many ways he's not like as gishmak a king as David HaMelech, but they wanted to get together and elect a king. And so we see that sometimes during elections, strange things happen, and miracles happen, and strange. So it's right here in HaShas. So that was the rain was falling not at the right time. So we see that after 13 fasts, it's not rainy season anymore, and that's why the rain stopped. But if it's scorpions attacking, snakes coming, and wasps, we could keep on fasting even though it's not wasp season. Shalchu Laib b'nei Nineveh, the Jews of Nineveh sent Rebbe. They sent a letter to Rebbe. Kigon anan. What about us? Phillip Tammuz b'inan mitra. We need rain even in the middle of the summer. Nineveh is up in Ashur, and it's very dry there. They needed rain even in the summer. Hechi Navid. How should we daven for rain? This is amazing because, of course, Nineveh is famous for who? Who visited? Yonah. Yonah visited Nineveh, and that was probably about 700-800 years before Rebbe's time. So we see there were actually Jews. When Yonah went, there's no Jews there. That's why he didn't want to go, because there's no kosher food. Dafka why he didn't want to go. But now, 800 years later, there's Jews in Nineveh, and they're asking Rebbe how to daven because they need rain in the summer. Ki yachidim daminan? Are we like yachidim or karabim daminan? Ki yachidim daminan? Are we like yachidim? We should put our request for rain b'shemei tefillah. Remember, in shemei tefillah, you can ask for anything. You can ask for anything. Karabim daminan? Are we like a rabbim because we're like the Jews of Nineveh? We're like a city here. Birkas Hashanim. And Birkas Hashanim, we should say 10 talu matar livrocha. We should say like this, like we do during the rainy season. During the rainy season, they should say their request for rain in Birkas Hashanim, even in the summer, even in Tammuz. Shalach lahu. Rebbe said back, Ki yachidim demitu. You are like yachidim b'shemei tefillah. You should request your rain in the summer in Tammuz in your shemei tefillah. Meisive, we ask a question on Rebbe. Amar Rebbe Yehuda. Eimatai bizman shanim kitiknan. When do we say that we only request rain in the rainy season? When the shanim are katiknan, when the world is going according to the normal order. So Rashi explains that the harvest is in Nisan and the planting is in Mar Cheshvan. Yisrael shruin al matam, and the Jews are on their land. And Rashi says sheminag Eretz Yisrael b'kach. The minag of Eretz Yisrael is to work when the Jews are on their land. Okay. So we know 150 years ago, Mark Twain went to Eretz Yisrael. It was a wasteland. It was swamps. There was nothing growing. And then 20, 30 years after that, the Jews showed up and things started growing again. Sheminag Yisrael shruim alad matan sheminag Eretz Yisrael bekach. Rabbi, you don't have to be a Zionist to appreciate these lines. You just have to be awake. Are we awake? Eretz Yisrael works when the Jews are on the land. Eretz Yisrael works with harvesting, planting, growing, prospering, flourishing when the Jews are there. It doesn't work when the Jews are gone. We've seen this in the last 150 years. We've seen this historically with our own eyes. It's right here. It's a Gemara. Everything's a Gemara, Rabbi say. Vol bizman hazeh, but in this time, hakolafi yashanim, hakolafi hamekamus. There's variation. There's some climate change they had back then, Rabbi say, and it wasn't always that Nisan was the time of harvesting, Mar Cheshvan was the time of planting. It wasn't always like this. So if you needed rain at a certain time, maybe you could ask for rain at that specific time. So maybe the children of Nineveh, the Jews of Nineveh, would be right to put their request for rain in Birkas Hashanim. Hakol lefi azman, it's according to the time. Amar lei, they said back to him, Mas Nisin, Ramis alei. You're asking a Mishnah alei to Rebbe against Rebbe. Rebbe Tana hu Polig. Rebbe is a Tana. He's on that level of Tana. He's a teacher. He was the teacher, the compiler of the Mishnah. He can argue on a Mishnah. So the Mishnah implies that there is some seasonal variation, but Rebbe says no. If you're a Yachid and you're in Nineveh, you should say in Shemei Tefillah, not in Birkat Hashanim. My Havelas, what do we conclude by this? Rav Nachman Amar Birkat Hashanim. He says if your community needs rain in the middle of the summer, not like everyone else, you could put it in Birkat Hashanim because you're a community. Rav Sheshet Amar B'Shemei Tefillah, Hilkata B'Shemei Tefillah. And we say if you need rain at a different time, put it in Shemei Tefillah. So they asked in South America and Australia, what do we do? Because we know south of the equator, it's upside down. Their seasons are flipped. So it was never mentioned in the Rishonim. It's never mentioned in the Gemara because all the Jews were living in the northern hemisphere. The entire Middle East is in the northern hemisphere. But once you get Jews in South America and Argentina and Brazil and Australia and everywhere, so they asked the question. They said, really, this Gemara implies in Shemei Tefillah it'd be appropriate to say your 10 talu matar livrocha in Australia if you need the rain in it's the summer for everyone else, and Eretz Yisrael doesn't need rain, the rest of the world doesn't need rain, but you need rain. It might be more appropriate to do it in Shemei Tefillah. That's a discussion in the recent post-game about
how to daven if you need rain in Australia in the summer when everyone else does not need rain. Well, it's their winter, it's our summer. So that's everything's upside down there. Baruch Hashem. So if anyone goes to visit, let me know how they daven. B'sheni mati nimashecha, on day 2, which is Monday, we tilt the stores opened towards evening so they could go and buy food. Because remember, they're fasting Bahab, and they would close the stores, but they had to buy food to eat. B'chamishi kol hayom mipnei kavod Shabbat. And on Thursday, we'd open the stores all day because of Shabbat. So they say, what is the parameters of opening stores? Ehi katani, what is the teacher talking about? B'sheni, which is Monday, mati nimashecha, we tilt open the store. Maybe it means we open all the way towards evening. B'chamishi kol hayom, and on Thursday we open the entire day, meaning kavod Shabbat, so you can buy what you need for Shabbat. Odila b'sheni matin. Maybe on Tuesday we tilt the door open a little bit. We crack the door open. We open the door all the way the entire day. Tashema, the Tanya. Bryce explains the Mishnah. B'sheni, on Monday, matina the Erev, we crack open the door towards evening. On Thursday we open the door wide the whole day. So you can go in easily and get what you need for Shabbat. If there's 2 doors, you could have one door locked, closed, and the other door to the store could be open. It's above. There's a bench in front of the store, connected pitko in front of the door. The bench is kind of blocking the door. People aren't going in aren't looking in to see the food on a fast day, because the problem is people are going to see food on a fast day and get upset. Avru elu v'lo, if these fast days passed and we were not answered, you decrease your business, b'binyan, and building of inatia, and in planting. That's what the Mishnah said. Tana b'binyan shel simcha. So you could keep building other things, keep building the shul, with the bathhouse, but a binyan shel simcha, you couldn't keep building natia shel simcha. Or planting would be a planting of simcha, but regular planting you could still do. Ezu binyan shel simcha, zay habone beit chatnut livno. He's building a wedding hall for his son. Sometimes they would build a new building for the wedding to take place in. And in that building, the chas and kala would live after the wedding. They'd have sheva brachas in that building. This is why sometimes in certain traditions they only say sheva brachas in the house of the chasan, because they literally built a house for the chasan and kala. Sometimes it was built on to the existing house of the in-laws or the parents or whatever it is. So don't try that at home. Ezehu netiya shel simcha. What is a planting of simcha? Zeanotea arvaniki shel malachim. This is arvaniki shel malachim. Rashi brings 2 pshatim. You plant a tree when the prince is born, and you're going to use that tree later to build his throne. Or you plant this nice grove for shade for the king to hold court outside in the nice grove. This is a netiya of simcha. You don't do this during public fast. B'shele shalom, taner badan, chaverim. It's the rabbis, the learned people. All of us in the Daf Yomi. Ein she'elas shalom b'nehem. They do not say shalom aleichem to each other on a fast day. Amei haaretz sholim. If an Am haaretz who doesn't know the halacha very well, he asks you, Shalom Aleichem, how you doing? He starts schmoozing. Machazir lechem b'safa rafa v'koved rosh. You can answer him out of respect. Don't ignore someone. Someone says hello to you, don't ignore them, please. Someone says good morning, you try not to ignore them. Of course, if you're davening, you can't. You say hello, you wave or something. But out of respect, you answer him with safa rafa, with a weak voice, koved rosh, and with seriousness. Hen mitafin, and the serious people would be mitatef. They'd be wearing their talit or their something over their head, like a turban on their head. Yoshin kavelim givnadim. They would sit like mourners or like people menuda, like excommunicated. Kivnei adam and nazufi in the makom. People who are nazuf makom, who are cast away from Hashem. We use this word nazifa by if it rains on Sukkot also, like we're being pushed out. You take it very seriously. Until Hashem has mercy on us. So we treat a fast day very seriously. We're not joking, laughing, schmoozing. We would treat it with koved rosh. And if somebody is a little lighthearted, so you can speak with them, but in a serious tone, with a hush tone. Ari Elazar, ein adam chashuv rashai lipo al panav. An important person can't fall on his face. This doesn't mean trip and fall, God forbid. This means during tachanun, we put our heads down. This is actually an extra mila. This is an extra tachanun where they go down onto the floor. Poskim say this refers to kida, bowing down onto the floor, all the way onto the floor. And we do this on Yom Kippur. When we do this on Yom Kippur, we dafka have a rug or a sleeve or a towel or something separating us from the floor, because there is a problem called maskit, tiled floor. The Avodah Zarah nicks, they used to bow down on a tile floor to serve their Avodah Zarah. So it's Asur Deraisa to bow down on a tile floor. So you guys in the back where there's tiles, you got to watch out. But we make a gezerah any floor. We don't bow our head down to any floor, even if there's a carpet, even if there's a hefsek. We put something there, like a sleeve. Your hand doesn't work because your hand is part of your body, so that doesn't work as a hefsek. You use a sleeve, you use a towel, you use something else to block your head from the floor, because we don't bow down on the floor, because the Avodah Zarah guys used to do such a thing. So this Yipol Opanav is an extreme measure of humility. You're really bowing all the way down to the ground. So an Adam Chashuv is not Rashai, Lipol Opanav, Eile Im Ken Nanei, unless he's going to be answered through doing this act, Ki Yeshua ben Nun, just like Yehoshua ben Nun, who bowed down to the floor and was answered. Shneamar, the pasuk says, Vayomer Hashem El Yehoshua, Hashem said to Yeshua, Kum Lech, stand up and go. Lama Zeyatal Nofel Opanav, why are you falling onto your face? Why are you prostrating all the way face down onto the ground? I'm answering you. So Hashem was answering Yehoshua, who went down and did this act. But a person shouldn't do this. Adam Chashuv shouldn't do this. Rashi explains, people are going to say, oh, he's not so Chashuv. He's not such a Geshmaka guy. Rabbi Elazar, Ein Adam Chashuv Rashai Lach Gor Sak. An important person can't wear sackcloth. Elim Kenane Ki Aharon ben Achav. Unless he's going to be answered like Aharon ben Achav. Shnemar Vayhi Kishma Melech et Divrei Yisha Vayikrad Begadav. Who over alachoma vayara am v'hine hasak al basaro, and he's wearing sack. So the king was wearing sackcloth, and they did shuva, and they were answered. They got rain again. So what's going on here is there's a Ben Yehoyada. So Baruch Hashem. So Hashem said. So Said said it would be an amazing daf, and Hashem arranged it so we'd have a Ben Yehoyada today by the Ben Ishchai. He says, Ein Adam Chashuv Rashay Lipol Panav Eliim Ken Nane Ki Yeshua Ben Nun. Perish Rashi, Shem Alo Yeh Nane V'Yechafu. He's not going to be answered. They're going to disgrace this Adam Chashuv. They say he's not so Chashuv after all. He's not so tzaddik, is he? Hiksha Marsha. The Marsha asks, Amai Eno Rashai. Imhu Lo Kapid B'Kach. What if he doesn't care that he's being embarrassed? Okay, he wasn't answered. He's not embarrassed. Nira Li. So the Ben Ishai says, A Kavana She'acharfu Gam in the Filas Apayim. Gam Ken Atzmo. He's going to say, look, Nefilas Apayim doesn't work. Bowing to Hashem doesn't even work. It's not just the man who's disgraced when he's not answered. It's the act of bowing down to Hashem itself. Shomrim Zeh Shote, this idiot, Shehem in Nefilas Apayim Hoseh, he thinks Hashem pays attention when you bow down. Really, Hashem does pay attention. So he's disgracing the act itself. Lo Yada She'ein Bezei Toelet. He doesn't know this doesn't work. Hare Hu Peti Mamin the Kodavar. He's not such a mamin. Nimsa becherfam otan ugeya charif l'nefilas apayim gam ken. So if somebody does extra pious things and he's not answered, he's publicly doing acts of piety and chumras, and he's doing all the milas, and Hashem doesn't answer him, it's a disgrace not only to him personally, but to the pious acts that he's doing, to his bowing down, to his tachanan. Masha Amar Adam Chashuv. De'im eino Adam Chashuv amrim l'kachu lo na'anei mitzad b'chituto. So it's because he's not Chashuv, he's not answered. They wouldn't insult the act itself of piety. Other than Bisal Milvad Perish Rashi, Hadenu Rashai Mishim de Mischayev Benafsho. Now this is interesting. This is the Ben Ishchai, and L'Shitaso, he says when you do what we call Nefilas Apayim today, we don't go on the floor. We go on the table, on the sleeve. So you'll see the Sfardim don't do it. The Sfardim don't do this during Tachanun because of the Ben Ishchai. The Ben Ishchai, from earlier sources, from the Zohar, he says a person could be mitchayev benasha, could be chayev misa, ki al yadei kach, doing this act of extreme piety, hametragim yitargu, the accusing angels, they start accusing Allah. Of Lomar, zeh smachot tzidkus, he's relying on his being a tzaddik, osin nefilas apayim, lanesh, neri memasav, we're going to look into it. So he says, if somebody does an nefilas apayim and is not tochu kabaru, his heart is not really into it, the accusing angel is going to come after him, because Nefilas Apayim is a very serious act to do. We actually see in Bava Metzia, after Rabbi Eliezer, Tanur Shalchnai, after they send him out, he does Tachanun one day, Nefilas Apayim, and Rabbi Yeshua dies. Because of his Nefilas Apayim, because he was so upset. So this is Nefilas Apayim. The Ashkenazim, they still go on the table, on your sleeve is the minhag, but the Sephardim don't do it, because the Ben Ishchai says the accusing angel is going to come after you, so that's why they don't do it. We'll go a little further. We have 1 minute left. So we're going to wrap it up here, but it's interesting. This Ben Achav, Yehoram Ben Achav was the king, and he did sackcloth and fasting, and he was answered. What happened was a woman came in front of him and said, "I want to sue my neighbor because yesterday we ate my kid, and today we agreed to eat her kid, and she won't let us eat her kid." That's how bad their situation was. But they were still going to court over it. They weren't fighting over it. So it's a really amazing thing. And Achav wanted to use eminent domain to take his cousin's field, and that's why he was Achav and Jezebel. And Jezebel said, no, you can't do that. It's not going to work out. It's going to look like an illegal seizure by the government. So we have to hire false witnesses to accuse him of slandering the king so the king can take his property. We see they were very concerned about the legalisms, about going to court, about who's going to eat whose son during the Rav, during the hunger. They're very concerned about eminent domain, and so you see, Jews always want to go to court. Jews always want to do things legally, even during a tough situation. So we're kind of in the middle of this Nefilas Baim issue, but Baruch Hashem, today all the Ashkenazim should go on the table on your sleeve, and the Sfardim should not. That's what the Bet Ish Chai says. Shkoyach Rabosai. Shabbos.